Hello and welcome to Economic Forum, where we discuss various issues affecting our economy in Zimbabwe. These range from agriculture, tourism, manufacturing, human capital, religion and education, health also come into play. We bring issues here and discuss to see how they impact on our economy in this country. My name is John Masugu. One of the methods of financing startups that is not oftenly discussed is venture capital. And today we want to understand more about what venture capital is all about. How can we benefit as startups from that kind of venture? And we've invited a marketing strategist who also is a columnist on issues to do with venture capital and other issues to do with finance and business, and that's Stephen Chikozho. Stephen, welcome to Economic Forum.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here, and I would like to say a warm welcome to all our viewers.
Yes, venture capital. I see in the press you have written about it, but now we have the opportunity of actually telling our viewers what venture capital is in very simple terms.
I'll start by giving a simple definition of venture capital, which I would say is finance given to startups in return for equity or ownership or shares. So what happens is, if there is an investor, if they are interested in your business, whether it's growing very fast or there is so much potential for it to grow in the next stages, they can provide you with capital so that you can scale your operations or you can grow your operations, and then they get equity in your business, or they get shares in your business, or a stake in your business. In return, they will then get funding from that equity.
So who organizes venture capital so that people understand where to go or what to do if they are the ones who have to establish the mechanisms?
What happens is, you would find that in Africa and in Zimbabwe in particular, most of the businesses, they need capital in order to grow. And many startups, if you read around, if you hear the pain points of most of the business people that are budding, that are growing right now, they would say the challenge that they often face is capital. So there is no place actually that you can say, okay, at this moment somebody can just come to my business and give me money, unless if you are a seasoned businessman that has grown. So if you are starting as a budding business person, you have to look for those opportunities. You have to search for the kind of investors that can come in to support your business. So the best way is, with technology these days, you can have access to many venture capitalists on the internet. You can look there across Africa. Zimbabwe is coming up as well, though it's in the early stages. There are also venture capitalists across the world. And what you have to then do is to identify those that are aligned to your vision. And once you have identified those that are aligned to your vision, you have now to do the initial requirements of how you can get that funding. You have to do what are called motivations, or in the language of venture capitalists, they call it a pitch deck. But it's basically a motivation for you to get the funding, where you come up with a proposal about your business, what your business is about, what you anticipate to do perhaps in the next 3 years, how much cash flow do you expect from your business. That's very crucial. What problems you are solving. If there are Zimbabwean problems, if there are African problems, you have to highlight them, because that's where the business opportunity is. And then after that, you bring all that together into one solid pitch, or one solid proposal that you can say, investor, I'm here, I have this idea that I would like to share with you. They give you an opportunity to pitch, where you can then present your issue to them. And it can be either, face-to-face or even online, most of the time.
When these things happen, what is also very important is due diligence, especially when we are going to be searching for business partners on the net. Yes. What is it that you can advise viewers to be alert of when they are now working with people they have not met or organizations they have not met, especially when they get them on the internet, because
Yeah.
there's so many scammers.
Scammers.
Yes.
Definitely. What you are talking about is actually happened to me. I think it was in November last year. There are people that purported to be from the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, yes, where they would say, okay, we have seen the work that you are doing, and we are happy to provide funding to you. And what you need to do is to write a grant proposal around these areas, and then you respond to them, and they say you've been successful in the first stage. You are going to the next stage. They allow you to give more about your project. And after going through the first stage, I just got suspicious, and I said, Ministry of Industry and Commerce, but it doesn't provide further details around this, how this is being handled, or no office details and the like. And I just looked on the internet doing a search to say, are these people genuine? Aren't there scams around this? And believe me, I saw a story that came out in the Chronicle where they were actually talking about the same people that they are scamming people. So what you are talking about is very important indeed, because what these scammers then do is to say, once you have gotten to a certain stage, they say you have to pay this amount in order for you to qualify for this certification. In that case, they were talking about a procurement certification of some sort, which they said it's required, and the company that was to provide that is based in Kenya. And then that's how they make their money. So that's one way.
Let's talk about how beneficiaries can actually protect themselves in venture capital.
One of the ways is to deal with proven organizations. There are quite a lot of them in Africa. It's to be able to assess what else they have done, who else they have given funding to, what is the performance of the organizations that they have given funding to. That is very important because it allows you to see the real impact that those investors are making in Zimbabwe or in other African countries.
That's Stephen Chikozho. He's a marketing strategist, and today we are talking about venture capital, which assists startups in establishing their businesses, especially with finance. And we've also, talked about how these startups can protect themselves, especially when they do such businesses on the internet. So join us in the second segment of Economic Forum. In the first segment, we explained what venture capital is all about and how startups can benefit from venture capital, and also how they can be protected from scammers, especially when they are looking for assistance on the internet. Our guest on Economic Forum today is Stephen Chikozho, who is a marketing strategist with interest in venture capital. Now, Stephen, which key sectors can actually thrive after being supported by venture capital?
One of the key factors that I consider is always solutions. So you would find that most of the sectors that have been vibrant when it comes to venture capital support are those that provide solutions to the masses, are those that can be scaled, like digital inclusion, how you can include everyone in mobile payments, for example. Companies that have been able to start that, they've been very successful. I can give an example of a very successful company, a mobile company in Nigeria that was able to see the gap within the Nigerian market where most of the people were excluded financially. They came up with a solution, mobile-based, which was very, very convenient to the women, to the youth, which was able to bring in the unbanked finances of that country. And they have gotten support from local investors in Nigeria, from continental investors in Africa, and also even global investors from the US and the UK. And now they are one of the most touted, startups in Africa, a success story for Africa. They are a billion-dollar company now, and they call these, in the startup and investment language, they call these unicorns. So they are one of the biggest unicorns in Africa at the moment. Yeah.
Any other solutions that you can mention, especially
Oh, yes,
pertaining
they are.
to Zimbabwe, that when you're pitching for Zimbabwe
Yeah.
and you're looking for venture capital,
Yes.
the best way to go about it is this, because those who provide finance can actually come in faster.
Oh, yes. So most of the solutions that I've seen to be succeeding are around health tech, what we call health tech, technology related to health. There are solutions in like Rwanda where technology delivers medicine.
How do they do it in Rwanda?
By drones.
Okay.
So they actually use GPS to locate, and drones take the medicine to the buyer or the client that would have bought it. There are also solutions around food deliveries in Kenya. There are very successful startups in that area. Also, there are success stories around renewable energy, where you would find that in most places in Zimbabwe and other African countries, there is limited energy, and solar has come in to be a very useful tool to address that problem. And most of the companies or the startups that have been focusing on those areas or those solutions, they've gotten venture capital funding. So those are some of the, just a few examples of the success stories that we have seen in Zimbabwe and Africa.
In fact, a company has already been formed in Zimbabwe to help with venture capital, but it's relatively new.
Yeah.
At what point is it coming with regards to the state of venture capital, the knowledge, and also maybe the execution at individual level?
Yeah, I think it's an important step, because what is crucial is to begin. The fact that that company was formed, even at policy level, government level, means that government is well aware of that need to address the venture capital gap, so that local startups can also get funding, and they can also get other support that venture capitalists bring, like mentorship, like networks to other founders that can actually help new founders to understand leadership, to understand managing capital, to understand marketing, to understand how they can generally grow their businesses. So I would say this is very important indeed. It's a first step, but I believe that when you look at what other African countries have done, like South Africa, like Rwanda, like Kenya, like Nigeria, we still have a long way to go. And there are a lot of other steps that I believe we have to take in order to make sure that we grow our businesses, we grow our sectors in that regard.
And what advice would you give to startups to protect themselves? Because when you're giving the definition, you mentioned that if they don't own up part of their businesses, may be taken because they failed on their part. But you want a company that has chosen the venture capital route to be successful. What would be the advice?
My advice is that, the beauty of venture capital is the risk also lies with the founder and also the lender. So why venture capital has succeeded all over the world, it's because it's unlike a loan. A loan, if you lose it in business, you are supposed to repay the loan. In the venture capital scenario, both the founder and the investor lose. So what it means is the investor will do a very thorough assessment of your business, of your potential, in order to make sure that they mitigate risk, because they also stand to lose. And the more the failure rate of startups, whether it's in Zimbabwe or other African countries, the less risk appetite that investors are going to have on supporting our own businesses. So it's important really that if a founder today gets venture capital, they perform better, because your failure, in fact, failure rates are around 97%. Your failure will affect how the next founder would get access to funding.
That's Stephen Chikozho, who is a marketing strategist. He's talking to us about venture capital, how venture capital can assist the startups in securing finance for their businesses. So join us for the final segment of today's Economic Forum. Well, today we're talking about venture capital, and our guest here, Stephen Chikozho, has just warned us that failure rate can be up to 97%, and one wonders why we should really bother about going into venture capital.
It's high returns. When you look at the financial markets, there is really a time when you can invest into something, whether it's a bank, you put your money in the bank. You cannot get profits or interest of up to 50%. But there are chances that in venture capital, you invest in a company, you get equity in it, you are likely to get high returns if it is successful. And depending on the performance of the company, there are also other exit mechanisms that venture capitalists use, like the initial public offerings, where they sell their stake through the stock exchange. So that's the motivating factor, where you know that despite the failure rate, you are standing a chance to gain significant income out of that venture. But what it also does is it makes sure that in terms of participation, that venture capitalist has to look seriously into your business operations, your governance structures, your management style, the people that are in your business, the kind of product that you offer, the service, how good it is, in terms of making sure that it succeeds in the market.
Is it not like a gamble?
It is like any business. It's like a gamble. You can go in, you can lose, or you can go in, you can win big. But it's worth it. That's what I would say.
Earlier on, we talked about the company that was formed by government. Your recommendations of how we can actually join in as citizens and make sure that it succeeds, and also that we benefit from it, especially now that we have innovation hubs at various educational or institutions.
Yeah, definitely. That's very important, I would say. Government has done a lot in terms of supporting entrepreneurship, in our country. The education system used to be focused on workers, but now, we are looking at job creation. A student now at university is trained to employ, so that's a good thing that government has done. But I feel like there is also a lot that has to be done in order to support those ventures to grow beyond what they can today in terms of policy. There has to be things like tax incentives for startups. There has to be some incentives for the venture capitalists that may want to come and operate in Zimbabwe. What do they get in return? How do they get their money out of the country? How do they exit some of the startups that they participate into? Because that's very important for venture capitalists. They want to come in to support, but they don't want to stay there forever. They want to exit and go elsewhere and invest elsewhere. So those are some of the crucial things that we have to learn from. And also the importance of using, digital technology in terms of market access. You know, in this world where we are in, we don't just talk of Zimbabwe. Our businesses grow and they can scale if their market is larger than Zimbabwe. If they can sell in South Africa, if they can sell in Zambia, if they can sell in Nigeria. So, you know, the internet allows that. So we have to promote policies that allow our businesses to be able to access those markets. There is some work that is being done, you know, by government, by private players, but I think there is a lot that needs to be covered if we are to reach other countries like Rwanda, like Nigeria, like Kenya, what they are doing, South Africa, they are doing fantastic work in that regard.
Are there any examples that you can give of some of the successes or success stories that have come about as a result of public as well as private venture capital in Zimbabwe?
In Zimbabwe, yes, there are some examples that I have seen. There is a company that is into food manufacturing that got funding from a private player, a financial institution in Zimbabwe, which is a good step. The financial players as well, quite a number of them have formed innovation hubs or established innovation hubs. Because one, funding is very important, but also the mentorship is also crucial. Sometimes an entrepreneur can get funding, but they do not have the leadership skills to be able to scale their business, or sometimes they do not have an understanding of the financial aspects of running a business. So there are a lot of private players that have come in to cover that area, like banks, like insurance companies that have formed innovation hubs that are doing fantastic work in that regard.
So, Stephen, from what you are saying, there's future in venture capital in Zimbabwe.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I think there is a lot that we can do. There is a future, and if we combine our efforts, government and private players, and have dialogue around it, cement our policies in that regard, will succeed.
That's Stephen Chikozho. He's a marketing strategist, and today we're talking about venture capital, especially how it can assist startups with finance. If you have any questions to ask about that area, as well as other issues that we discuss on Economic Forum, you can do so on the numbers that are showing on the screen. If you would like to engage with us, as well as some of our guests, you can also do that on the social media platforms that are also showing on our screens. If you have missed some of the episodes of Economic Forum, you can actually watch them on our YouTube channel, which is Economic Forum Zimbabwe. So on behalf of our guest, Stephen Chikozho, who has been explaining to us about the benefits of venture capital, this is John Masuku on behalf of the Economic Forum production crew, wishing you happy viewing.